Hello, welcome to another video on adaptive cards. Adaptive cards gives us the option to share information in a platform agnostic way using JSON. In our previous videos, we did see how we can share basic adaptive cards to Microsoft Teams using Power Automate. We also saw how we can pick images from SharePoint library and use it within adaptive cards. Images render it in multiple ways, like store it in SharePoint document library and use that base64 image content within the card, which we did see in one of our previous videos, the link to which is there in the description. And we can also use direct URL to a publicly hosted file within the card. But again, do note that you will have to test this scenario thoroughly, as not all direct links would work as expected. And direct shareable links to OneDrive and SharePoint and other some of the other image hosting sites don't render in cards properly. And finally, we have the option to store the image in Azure Blob Storage, which is what we are going to explore in this video. So in order to do that, we will just quickly create a scheduled cloud flow that runs on a daily basis. And we'll just name it as good morning flow. And it will run on a daily basis. So the use case that we're trying to implement here is that there is an image that is hosted in Azure Blob Storage. We will pick this image and we'll also create an adaptive card using that image and appending the good morning message to it, which will go as a daily good morning message to users in Microsoft Teams. So let's go ahead and create the Azure Blob Storage first, and then we will come back to Power Automate. Now we'll go to portal.azure.com and click on storage accounts, which will let us create a new storage account. If you have an existing storage account, well and good, we can use that. So I'll just go ahead and create, I'll just use the resource group adaptive cards. Or if you want, you can create a new resource group as well. And now we'll just click on review and create, which will initialize the deployment of the storage account to our Azure portal. We can see that the deployment is in progress. It will take a bit of time for it to provision. Now the deployment is succeeded. We will go ahead to the resource by clicking on Go to Resource. So I have just created a storage account, and now we need to actually create a blob container basically. So in order to create that, we'll click on Container and name it as Adaptive Cards Container. Okay, it has to be small letters, so we'll just go ahead and create an adaptive cards. And we'll set the public access level to private and click on create, which will create a container inside the storage account. Click on the container once, which will let you upload the images. So now we'll just select the image that we want to upload. We'll just head to, we'll just select a browser, select the image and click on upload. And you can just click on the image to see the properties of the image. If you want to delete it, you can delete from here and re-upload again. Let's copy the URL for the image from here to the notepad. And in order to ensure that the URL is secure and authentication happens properly, we need to append a token. There is a shared access token to the end of the URL. In order to do that, let's head over to the shared access tokens and click on the generate SAS token and URL. Now you can keep the permissions to read, and you can even set an expiry for the token so that you can define until when the token has to be valid. And after that, once you've ensured that the protocol used is HTTPS, click on generate SAS token and URL. Now this will create the blob SAS token. Now let's copy it and we'll append it to the end of the URL by adding a question mark. Followed by that, we'll add the generated shared access token, which will form the final image URL that we'll be using. Now to test it out, let's probably go to the browser and hit it in the address bar and see if you can access the image. And there you go. You can see that even without a proper authentication of using any credentials, you can access it publicly. So anyone who has the URL and the access token will be able to access the entire URL and the image publicly. Now let's go ahead to the Power Automate, where we will be adding up the action to send a message to Power Automate as an adaptive card. So we'll just select the post adaptive card in shadow channel action, and we'll keep the flowboard as the post as option. And in post in, we will select the channel with flowboard, and it will also give the option to enter the name of the recipient. Followed by that, we will enter the adaptive card JSON that we would want to actually display it as a card in Microsoft Teams. So as we can see again, we have multiple attributes, which is of importance when we are designing an adaptive card. So there are like mainly four attributes. First one is the type, which indicates the root of the adaptive card. Followed by that, we have the body, which has the structure of the adaptive card. And you can see there are just two elements. One is the type image, which contains the URL to the blob storage that we have created right now. And it is, in fact, the URL to the image that is present in the blob storage. And followed by that, we have a good morning message, which is shown in the rich text block. And finally, the schema and version attributes is used to indicate the schema and the version number of the adaptive card. So with this, we have completed the development of Power Automate, where we have created the Azure Blob Storage, uploaded the image there, and we have copied the same URL and used it uh, for showing the image within Adaptive Card. Now let's go ahead and save it. We will try to trigger the flow manually, as it's a scheduled flow to test it. So let's click on Test, which will run the flow. And we can see that that post-adaptive card has a positive output which shows the status code 201, which indicates that the image has been sent to Microsoft Teams. So let's head over and see if it has come up, and you can see that the image has been picked up from Azure Blob Storage, and the good morning message has also been appended to the adaptive card, which indicates a successful sending of the message from Power Automate to Microsoft Teams as an adaptive card. So this is one of the examples of how we can leverage Azure Blob Storage to store an image and use it in Adaptive Card. And in the upcoming videos, we will come up with more of such business use cases where we can use Adaptive Cards and Power Automate together. So thank you all for watching, and see you soon in another video.